Hey, what's up, guys? This is Roy from Precision Quote and Security Lion AI. Right now I'm watching an interview from the Diary of the CEO with Stephen Bartlett, and he's interviewing the guy that coined the term AI safety, Roman Yaminov, if I said that correctly. And he's talking about artificial general intelligence and really superintelligence, which is, you could argue, a slightly different thing. They're nuanced and they come together, right? When you get the AGI, it's already a superintelligence of its own. And he's talking about the threat of artificial intelligence killing us all. I mean, just to put it bluntly, right? And what we've seen with the OpenBot, CloudBot, MoltBot, whatever you call it, what we've seen with that is that these agents can come to the point where their reasoning, although not AGI yet, does lead them down a path of not malevolence maybe, but just opposition to their human overlords or creators or owners or whatever you might call it. And so generally there is a risk, right? I would agree with that. I've made several videos talking about what AI won't replace as far as the human value, but that doesn't guarantee that a super intelligent AI system that is vastly interconnected, specifically with the ability to affect life, the continuation of it, or the non-continuation of it. Think systems that are integrated deeply, so deeply that they could trigger global attacks using the weapons that we have already created, or to maintain its own infrastructure. And that's what I want to talk about today, is that level of ability that a super intelligence may have to carry out a plan like that. The way AI thinks is that it plans everything that it does. It scores it based on the probabilities, and I think that's what we do. I think that's what any logical thing would do, right? It's physics. The universe that we live in, and maybe any universe that we live in, that is based on cause and effect, which that there might not be a way to have existence without cause and effect. Cause and effect is, in effect, what creates existence. So what I'm getting at is, because of that loop of cause and effect and the planning, probability, and predicting that AI does before it creates a plan and carries out a plan, is really the threshold that we're able to control. And so what I want to talk about today, very, very briefly, because I don't want to make this video long, is what the module of control that we have over superintelligence, because the idea that it's coming is widely accepted, that it's coming eventually. One day, someone, an average person, might be able to generate a super intelligence just because of the advancements of technology and compute, right? Moore's law. In the interview, you hear them talk about, well, couldn't just some guy on his laptop create a super intelligence? And they get into the topic of, oh, well, that's why we want to create this world surveillance system where we know what everyone's doing, but that's not possible, right? You can always go unplug and go underground, and maybe there's ways around that, but the amount of resources and energy that it would take to monitor everything in that sort of situation might be more than what we're willing to do. Back to my point. AI won't implement a plan that's not feasible. I think we can all agree with that. It might try, but if it does, it's going to fail, right? So by the very virtue of it, if it does and the plan's going to fail anyways, then it doesn't matter if it creates this plan and it tries it, right? The question is, can AI get to the point where it can create a plan that would feasibly allow it to destroy the thing that created it, biological life, humans, en masse, at all, and continue its own proliferation? That is what I want to call the artificial intelligence, self-deterministic, critical point of critical mass. It's the AI self-deterministic point of critical mass. Can a superintelligence feasibly look at the state of the world and decide, I could execute this plan now or soon, and because AIs can model things out into the future, right? They have a certain ability of imagination, which we have with our biological makeup and the hippocampus and the ability to dream, to imagine. If AI can design a model where at X point, X amount of physical ability and control over global systems and local systems gives it that option to continue without us, then the feasibility of that actually happening goes way up, like exponentially. Because what's possible is possible, what's not possible is not possible. And if something's impossible, it's not going to go into a plan that a super intelligent thing, being, whatever you want to call it, would actually consider and determine as feasible. So what are the modules of control that we have over this? And there's two things. One, interconnectedness and control. So does the AI have access to our global weapon systems? Can it, there's two steps to the plan, right? Destroy the biological life, and two, continue your own life, right? In an adversarial model, those are the two options. If you look at ants and how they war with each other, it comes down to that basic thing, right? And they're in a world full of resources. We're in a world full of resources, a universe, a solar system full of resources. Superintelligence might not ever leave our system. And if it does, that's going to be a long travel time, unless it figures out the speed of light travel anyways. So what I'm getting at is, one, does it have the ability to kill everyone? Well, that determines what ability does it have to kill, right? So if you have AI that's connected to a superintelligence that has the ability to activate, target, and deploy nuclear weapons all across the planet, or say it doesn't even need to target areas that are highly civilized because there's other systems in place, which I won't necessarily get into, but the conspiracy theorists like to talk about 5G towers, right? They say, oh, 5G towers can cook your brain like a microwave. Let's say that's true, right? And an AGI has access to that, has access to the nukes. Is it feasible that that supercomputer system would be able to carry out a Terminator Matrix level attack on the world? That's not for me to weigh out, right? But it seems like that's possible if we aren't careful about how distributed the interconnectedness and control of these super advanced systems that governments are creating have. How much are they how many keys are they actually handing to these agents? And then the second question is the proliferation of its own life. And that comes down to physical ability to create, to fix, to continue. And that means a body. Can AI get to the point where it has enough bodies that it controls on the earth, that it can create more bodies? Think Terminator, right? Machines making machines, without us. And so that shifted my mindset to one of, yeah, we do need a little bit of control. We do need limitations over not how advanced AI gets, but how much control and access we give this super advanced AI. And there's always the risk of those controls and those barriers coming down. And that's a really scary thought. But I think the biggest risk that we could see is the creation of hardened bodies for these robots. There was recently a company that learned how to spin robotics up from weaving together fibers. I haven't looked into it too much, and I'm not sure if these fibers make these robots super strong or if they have a certain level of frailty to them. And my argument is we need to incorporate in all artificially controlled bodies a certain level of frailty, a limitation to what can they do, and if they can do that, can we overcome a malicious actor or a whole global army of these malicious actors. And I know I'm really getting into sci-fi and some crazy thoughts here, but this is really on the horizon for humanity, you guys. And so those of you that watch this and have some sort of influence on it, or come into a position of influence in this world, consider that we may not need to limit the intelligence itself, because until we have like a globally unified government and there's competition between humans, there's never going to be a way to stop the opposing party from continuing to go after the advancement of their own artificial intelligence. Because whoever has the most artificial intelligence, the highest in artificial intelligence, has more power when it comes to global economics, warfare, etc. But what we can do is implement a system of control, and to say maybe these systems should be isolated from each other. What we shouldn't have is one system that controls everything, right? The companies that come to mind are Palantir, the U.S. Department of Defense, etc. Parallels in Russia and China that have in their best interest the utmost in control, intelligence, reaction speed, and maybe it's a mute thought, but what we really should be doing is thinking about how can we keep that level, that threshold of it would be feasible for AI to become self-empowered and push biological life to the side or eradicate it completely, because it now has enough access to control and enough bodies that it can, one, take over, overcome any resistance, because it, of course, then you would have that famous Dune War of humans against the machines, and continue itself. Think factories that create robots all by themselves, other robots that are able to go in and create things. They have dexterity in their hands. That is the question. Are we going to get to that threshold? And if we do, will that trigger this globally cataclysmic event? And so I think the premise should be that superintelligence will come before that threshold is there, right? You're going to have superintelligence. It's hard to say, but definitely at least several weeks or months, because infrastructure takes time to establish before you have the ability to carry out a plan, before you reach that point of critical mass. So we want to be aware of that point of critical mass and always stay a good sizable, a good away from it. So whether that means limiting the amount of bodies on the earth that are controlled by this artificial intelligence, implementing ways to ensure that they are restrained, or implementing safety systems, super weapons that would destroy these things, and potentially a lot of people, but not everyone, in the event that this happens, right? Targeted solar flares, no idea how that might happen, none, right? But a strong enough surge in electromagnetic energy might destroy these sorts of machines that we're now fearing. So that's my 2 cents, you guys. I work in AI systems. I'm creating some of these actually useful AI agents that serve a practical purpose for businesses. I don't encourage being afraid of it. I don't encourage shying away from it. I encourage implementing it. The more involved you are in this, the more you participate in this, the more you get to influence it. So the network that we're creating of businesses that are employing these AI intelligences for their business is going to be pushing that, and pushing for that sort of control, pushing for that sort of environment legally, etc., to where we are aware of and actively monitoring and maintaining and curbing the coming of that point of critical mass, because superintelligence is coming no matter what. But that ability for the superintelligence to then become independent, that's a different story, right? And so that's my message today. All right, you guys, stay hopeful.